Hello and welcome back to another episode of What's Up with Nick and Chuck. I'm Andy, the marketing guy from HUI, and this week Nick and Chuck will be having another discussion with an industrial designer, and this week we'll be talking about the voice of the customer. So with that, I'll send it to Nick and Chuck.
Thanks a lot, Andy. We're back with another episode of What's Up with Nick and Chuck. Thanks for joining us today.
Our guest this week is Mark Collins, our HUI's applications engineer, and Carmen Chacon. She is an industrial designer who specializes in human factors, and she is with Chacon Design out of Seattle, Washington. Carmen has more than 25 years of experience designing diagnostic equipment, surgical and drug delivery systems. She has worked with startups to Fortune 50 companies. Carmen has developed equipment for newborns, as well as wearable devices for cardiac patients and minimal invasive for surgical devices. So our topic today that we're looking to share with everybody is to talk specifically around voice of customer. And Carmen, who we've worked with for about 2 years on a project together, she's going to specifically talk today about, or answer some questions today about voice of customer and how that plays a major part in the concept stage and early on in the development process. So with that, why don't we jump right into it. Carmen, what do medical device companies need to know about gathering good information for voice of customer?
Well, to have a good VOC, the voice of the customer, it's important to go out and gather data early. That's very critical in order to feed into the design of your product. And that would include your early customers that maybe they purchase it, but also nurses or doctors or whoever the intended user is. It's those voice of the customers, the intended user group, that is very critical to directing the design of the product.
All right. And so what would be your advice to device manufacturers about gathering good voice of customer? Like, talk to me about process, talk to me about people involved.
Yeah, and early on, which is nice, is it only takes a few people. You don't have to have like a formative study where you need 10 or 15 participants. You just need 1 or 2 or 3 just to get an idea, to go out there, get your feet wet early on. It's early, and then come back, do some refinement, some sketches. Maybe you do a little prototyping, early prototyping, then get back out there, get to your customers again to see if you've really hit the nail on the head, so to speak, if you've really designed well for that intended user group, you've dealt with their concerns. And I think it's really important to do it early and do it often.
Okay. Mark, what does voice of customer, how does that benefit the contract manufacturers or the other people involved in the development process?
I guess really it gives us more confidence that we're going to end up with a product that people like. It's as simple as that. You take the end users, you get feedback on what it is that they need, and we feel so much more confident that they're going to get what they want.
Okay.
I mean, Carmen, have you ever had a project where you went out to get some VOC and you ended up with a person that was crazy, off the wall? The responses they had were totally different than the other 2 or 3 that you had, and what do you do with that kind of type of information?
Those are the outliners. So I outliners, you listen to them, you kind of cringe a bit, but you also have to be careful. Are they the intended user group, or are they the person that purchases the device and maybe not even use it? So you'll have those outliners there, and you have to make sure that you kind of hear it, you listen to them. Maybe there will be some good points in there, but it's not something that I would go and say, okay, I've got to change my design because I heard this one particular comment. So you have to be careful with that. It's more of making sure that your intended user group is well versed in using that product that you have in mind.
How long does it take to sit down with somebody and really get a good feel for how they feel about a product?
Well, I would say you can do it in little as 30 minutes, 20 minutes. A lot of time it's understanding the workflow or how they, kind of observation early on in the research of collecting the voice of the customer is really observing how they do their daily life. What is their concern? What is their priorities are? And so I think you have to really pay attention to the early on, how are they using this, and whatever device it is, just understanding that user will really help you a lot in going further.
Do you have any examples of a project where you missed the mark, where you got the voice of the customer back, and you started delivering a product, and suddenly you had to do a 180 because it just wasn't working out, and all of a sudden we just missed it. The people that we talked to weren't the right people.
That would be very scary.
So it's not something you've experienced.
That would not something that I would like to see. I think what happens as far as turning 180 is you may have an idea you think is fantastic. You think this is going to really make their lives easy if I just incorporate this one little design element into, say, the system. And then you realize that sheepishly, that was really a wrong thing to do. When you took it out and tested, we got to take it off. And so I think it's those little ones, not necessarily gross where you have to start all over. You may have to start over in, like an example would be cable management. That is huge. People forget about that. And that changes the whole perception of a product on how it's used and where you place things. So people forget about because it's dynamic, it's always moving.
Hey, Carmen, you talked a little bit about testing, like getting out there early and testing. Like, I guess, talk to the group about what are the best methods for getting out there early enough to try to test and validate concepts or ideas.
Well, prototyping, and with 3D prototyping, I mean, I have a 3D printer. It's not a large one, but it's enough to get some smaller concepts out there rapidly and start turning some ideas and getting them out to the customer right away. So I think, early on, we did foam core. In working with you folks, we did foam core, we did plywood, a lot of mixed materials, some SLAs, SLS, 3D printed parts, cast parts, and then all those rapid prototyping, hurry up and getting a system together that can be tested with the customer early on, make those critical decisions like height, size, things that are really going to nail down the manufacturability of a product. You need to decide that early on. And so that's where this really helps. And working with you on doing the sheet metal cart, that helped in refining all those elements before we went in to cut steel, to do tooling. And so it saves time and money.
Excellent.
Okay, so after you have a prototype and you are going to go out and do some research, obviously you made that prototype based on a bunch of specifications. Do the specifications change?
That's a very good question. The specifications do get changed. They get tweaked, modified based on the research and the observation, because I think people can write down specifications of what they think this product will deliver, what it will do out in the market. And then when you first start getting those early prototypes and you go out and test it with the customer and you learn new things, that you go back to the team and say, hey, we learned something. We really forgot. We missed the mark on this. We need to incorporate this feature. It's so critical to the success of this product. And on top of that, it will beat the competition. So there's those things that you bring in early on that define, because those are living documents, and those specifications will change and modify according to your observations and the research that you do up front.
Right. Those are the fun moments when you discover the gems.
Carmen, have you ever done any ID work for a company that did not make the effort in putting forth collecting that VOC?
I'm trying to think. It's not a preferred method to go about without doing the early research, but there'll be people, companies, startups maybe that don't want to put the effort into that, mainly from a cost perspective or a time perspective. But then the scope gets really narrowed. So a lot of times, I think when you're working on a medical device, like what I focus on, you can't afford not to do that. So in my career working on medical devices, I've always done early research and usability testing on all the concepts because that makes it much more of a successful.
Carmen, in your 25 years of experience, I guess, how has the industry changed in terms of industrial design and how that's brought to the table with, whether it's a medical device or a wearable device or other industries?
That's a good question. I think the most change has been the regulatory landscape. I mean, back in the day when everything was in draft, where 62366 or HE 75, that was our kind of best medical practices, finally came out, and that was justification for industrial designers to say, not just that it's intuitive, but that these are data points that we should be designing to, instead of just because it feels good or because customer likes it. You have to back up with data. And so I think that has changed. And it has allowed designers to have more influence on the usability aspect based on a lot of the requirements, safety requirements. So I think safety has come in, and rapid prototyping. I think those two key, when you can have a 3D printer right over here to help, and of course CAD, the advancements of quick turn on CAD changes too.
Sure.
So Carmen, we've worked with you in the past and had a great experience on a project together. I guess for those that are watching, how would they contact you and what kind of projects are you looking for, moving forward?
Yes, I'm currently looking for another opportunity with another medical device to help a company be successful in helping them design and develop a product for the market for life-saving, for something to better people's lives. I mean, it's all about safety and efficacy for me, and designing a better product that will help save lives.
For those of you watching that are interested, we'll have Carmen's contact information at the end of the show.
Great, thank you. It's been wonderful. Great to work with.
And happy to have you, and thank you very much for all your valuable feedback. So
It's good to see you,
Yes,
Carmen.
thank you too. I've enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us, Carmen. Appreciate it. So that concludes our episode of What's Up with Nick and Chuck. Thanks again to everybody for watching. We appreciate your time, and we'll see you soon.
take care, everybody.
Thank you.